December 7th, 1941, a quiet Sunday morning at the American naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. Without warning, a swarm of Japanese fighter planes darkens the sky, dropping bombs that rip the unprepared U.S. Pacific Fleet. In less than 2 hours, it's over. Over 2,400 Americans are killed. 18 ships are sunk or crippled. More than 300 aircraft destroyed. The very next day, a stunned and enraged President Franklin D. Roosevelt addresses the nation. His words would echo through history.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked.
Congress declares war on Japan. Days later, Germany and Italy declare war on the United States, plunging the nation into a global conflict it had desperately tried to avoid. The attack on Pearl Harbor was meant to cripple the U.S. Navy and ensure Japan's dominance in the Pacific. Instead, it awoke a sleeping giant and set in motion a chain reaction that would end in atomic fire. The United States was now fighting for its life on two fronts. While the official strategy was Hitler first, dedicating most resources to defeating Germany, the war in the Pacific was a brutal, immediate reality. Then came the Battle of Midway in June 1942. In a stunning victory, the U.S. Navy, armed with crucial intelligence from broken Japanese codes, sank 4 of Japan's most vital aircraft carriers in a single day. It was a catastrophic defeat for Japan. The tide had turned. America could finally shift from defense to offense. What followed was a grueling island-hopping campaign. Led by General Douglas MacArthur and Admiral Chester Nimitz, American forces began a slow, bloody crawl toward the Japanese home islands. The strategy: bypass heavily fortified positions and seize strategic islands, turning them into stepping stones for the next advance. Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Saipan. Each island became a new, horrific battleground. The fighting was savage. American troops faced an enemy deeply influenced by the Bushido Code, a warrior ethos that valued honor above life and demanded a fight to the very last man. This led to desperate tactics: kamikaze suicide attacks, soldiers who would rather die than surrender. The battles for Iwo Jima and Okinawa in 1945 were particularly hellish. On Iwo Jima, a tiny volcanic island just 8 square miles, more than 6,800 Marines were killed in 36 days of fighting. The 82-day Battle of Okinawa was even worse, nicknamed the Typhoon of Steel. It became the deadliest battle of the Pacific Campaign. Over 12,500 Americans killed, more than 100,000 Japanese soldiers dead, tens of thousands of civilians caught in the crossfire. Okinawa was a horrifying preview of what an invasion of mainland Japan would look like. Military planners, staring at these staggering losses, projected that a full-scale invasion could cost hundreds of thousands, maybe even 1 million American casualties. Japanese losses would be in the millions. The war had become a meat grinder. American leaders grew desperate for a way to end it decisively without the unthinkable bloodbath invading the Japanese home islands. That desperation was fueling a secret race that had been running parallel to the war itself. In 1939, Albert Einstein wrote to President Roosevelt, alerting him that recent breakthroughs in nuclear fission made it possible to build extremely powerful bombs of a new type. Fearing that Nazi Germany was already chasing such a weapon, Roosevelt authorized a research program. What started small would soon become one of the largest, most secret, and most expensive scientific projects in history, the Manhattan Project. By 1942, under the command of Army General Leslie Groves and the brilliant scientific leadership of physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer, the project was in full swing. Most of the workers had no idea what they were building. Back in Los Alamos, Oppenheimer and a team of the world's brightest minds, many of them refugees from fascist Europe, raced to solve the ultimate puzzle: how to trigger an uncontrolled nuclear chain reaction, how to turn a small lump of material into a weapon of unthinkable power. On July 16, 1945, in the New Mexico desert at a site called Trinity, they were ready to find out if it would work. At 5:29 a.m., the world's first nuclear weapon detonated. The blast was more spectacular and more terrifying than even its creators had imagined. A blinding flash lit up the pre-dawn darkness. A mushroom cloud rose 7 miles into the sky. The shockwave was felt 100 miles away. Oppenheimer, watching from a bunker, later recalled a line from Hindu scripture, "Now I'm become death, the destroyer of worlds." A new age had dawned. August 6, 1945. The Enola Gay released Little Boy, the uranium bomb, over Hiroshima. 43 seconds later, at 1,900 feet above the city, the bomb detonated. The explosion unleashed a destructive force equivalent to 15,000 tons of TNT. A blinding flash of light, a fireball hotter than the surface of the sun, a shock wave traveling faster than sound, flattening everything within a mile. In an instant, the city vanished. Buildings vaporized. People were turned to shadows, their forms burned into concrete and stone. The blast radius extended for miles. Those who survived the initial blast faced an inferno. Firestorms raged through the ruins. Tens of thousands suffered from horrific burns and radiation sickness, a mysterious illness that would kill thousands more in the days and weeks to come. By the end of 1945, deaths from the blast, the fires, and radiation reached as high as 140,000 people. On August 9, 1945, Fat Man, the plutonium bomb, was dropped on Nagasaki. The death toll, up to 74,000 by year's end. Faced with this unimaginable power, and with the Soviet Union simultaneously declaring war and invading Japanese-occupied Manchuria, Japan's leadership was finally broken. On August 15, 1945, Emperor Hirohito addressed the Japanese people in a radio broadcast, announcing Japan's unconditional surrender. On September 2, 1945, formal surrender documents were signed aboard the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay, officially ending World War II. The war that began with the conventional bombs of Pearl Harbor ended in the atomic fire of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The single surprise attack, meant to build an empire, had instead unleashed a chain reaction of military escalation and scientific discovery that produced the most terrifying weapon ever created. The atomic bombs saved lives by ending a brutal war, but at a horrific human cost. Over 200,000 people killed, most of them civilians. A legacy of suffering, radiation sickness, and birth defects that endures to this day. The mushroom clouds over Japan didn't just signal the end of the deadliest conflict in human history. They marked the beginning of the atomic age, a new era where humanity possessed the power to destroy itself, and the world would never be the same.